Good morning, friends. Prepared Suburbanite here. The seasons have changed. It's now truly autumn. Today's the 30th of October, Monday morning. It's about 40 degrees. Last night it got down to around 37, and I couldn't be any more happy. I can finally wear the vests, get out the flannel shirts and sweatshirts and all that. It's just wonderful, and I'm thankful to say goodbye to the stifling heat and humidity of the North Carolina summertime. But it also triggers the checklist for the season's change. So stick around and I will run through my checklist for this season's change. Okay, so first up on the list is run through the get home bags and the bug out bags and take out your summer weight clothing and replace it with winter weight clothing. Chuck the t-shirts, chuck the shorts, chuck the cotton socks, get the wool socks in there, get a good pair of Thinsulate gloves in there, get a nice beanie type hat that'll keep your head warm. Get your vest in there, that'll help. Swap out the t-shirts for a good sweatshirt or a wool sweater, even better. Those are the kinds of things that you really do have to pay some attention to. I've been in that situation, I have forgotten to do it, and all of a sudden I'm pawing through a backpack or a get-home bag or something, trying to find a warm pair of gloves or a warm hat or something because it's now cold and I've got t-shirts and shorts and that kind of stuff. So because it's happened to me, just a warning for you, that's number one on my checklist. Okay, number two on the list, check your inventories, your food storage and your water inventories. Make sure you know what you got. This is the best time of the year to make sure that your food stores are where you want them to be, where they need to be for you and your family. I do it twice a year. I do one in the spring and I do one in the fall, where I'll just sit with a piece of paper and an inventory list and start checking things off. We use stuff that we keep in storage, which I think is kind of a prerequisite for why you'd want to store stuff. You store stuff you would normally use. And as we use that stuff, we need to replenish it. We went through a lot of fortified dry milk this past 6 or 7 months or so. Some of it was for gardening, some of it was for cooking, but we went through more than we normally do for whatever reason. And when I took inventory, I said, hey, it's time to reorder. So I went to Emergency Essentials, and they happened to have a sale going on for the fortified instant non-fat dry milk, and I picked up 6 number 10 cans of that. They just came in, I think Saturday, and put them up on the shelf. Now we've got that taken care of. Been through everything, looked at the veggies, looked at the meats, looked at the stuff in the freezer, looked at the staples like flour and sugar, that kind of stuff, and just checked it off, make sure that we've got what we're going to need to make sure that we can get through at least the season. It's going to be different for everybody, whatever your needs are, whatever your budget can afford, but now's the time to double check that inventory and fill in any gaps that you may have. Right along with that, we store quite a lot of potable water. We're here in the city basically, and we get treated city water. And I've purchased a number of the 5-gallon and 7-gallon water totes, and we keep them filled up and I rotate them out. About every 6 months or so, I'll dump the old water and I'll fill it up with new water. I don't necessarily think I absolutely have to do that because I've never seen anything untoward in any of the water that we rotated out, but I thought it would be a good idea just to make sure that we're rotating that out. Now this water's already treated. It's got the regular lines of chlorine and fluoride and all that kind of stuff in it. So I don't really have to treat the water. I don't have to put iodine in it. I don't have to run it through a filter or anything like that. So I've got probably almost a dozen 7-gallon water totes, different places around the homestead here. And what I'll do is dump those out. You can use them to fill in the garden, that kind of stuff, water your lawn with it. And then I'll refill them all and label them when I refilled them and all that. And then just to make sure that I've got a good rotating inventory of fresh potable water in case something happens and we don't have access to potable water. To back that up, I've got a Berkey water filter that, good Lord, I don't know how long it's going to last, but it's going to last for a number of years. That if we ever get in a situation where we don't have guaranteed potable water, we'll have the Berkey water filter to take care of that. So that's number 2 on the list. Number 3 on the list, winterize your vehicle. I spent probably the first half of my life living way up north, upstate New York, New Hampshire, places like that where you really did have to go through a checklist for winterization of your vehicles. And what that means is you make sure that you've got the right motor oil, and when you change your oil or have your oil changed, that you go to a winter weight motor oil so it doesn't get too awful thick in the super cold weather that we had in upstate New York and New England. Making sure that your antifreeze is where it needs to be so that you don't get any freeze-ups in your engine block or your radiator or anything like that. Down here in North Carolina, it doesn't seem to be all that important because about the coldest it gets is maybe 18 degrees Fahrenheit. And the days will warm up pretty much in the middle of January. The days will warm up to the mid-40s, even 50s and stuff like that. So having to worry about that kind of stuff down here in the south isn't as critical as it is for you folks that live up north of the Mason-Dixon line, Michigan, places like that where you really do have to worry about it. Check your tires. If you got to swap out for snow tires, now's the time to do it before the snow flies. And I think the snow is already flown in northern Pennsylvania and upstate New York already. They've had some flurries, and I've heard from folks in Michigan already that they've had measurable accumulations, a couple inches anyway, of snow. So if you need to put snow tires on your vehicle, now's the time to get that done. Make sure your windshield washer solution tank is filled up so that when you run through the stuff, your windshield can stay clear. That's very helpful, especially where they use salt and stuff on the roads to keep them open. Make sure that you've got your winter equipment in your vehicle. Have that shovel in there in case you do end up in a snowbank or something like that that you can help dig yourself out. Make sure you get a pair of warm gloves in your vehicle so that if you do get stuck, you can get yourself out. So keep your vehicle winterized. Now's the time to do it. You can swap it back to summer temperatures come spring, but now's the time to really double check what's going on in your vehicle to be ready for the coming seasonal change. So next up on the list is taking a look at your backups, your backup systems, your systems for heat, your systems for cooking. That's the kind of stuff that you got to make sure your backups are in place. Had a couple of trees fall this year here at the homestead. I got them cut up. I got to split them because we do use our fireplace to take as an auxiliary. So it's a secondary source of heat here at the homestead. But I've got to go out and split that firewood to get it ready so I can burn it in the fireplace. But you want to make sure that if you've got a secondary source of heat, like a fireplace or a propane stove or a kerosene stove, that your fuel for those backup systems is topped off. Make sure that if you burning kerosene, make sure you got kerosene inventory on hand and it's up to date. Make sure you got enough propane. If you've got a small propane, like a Mr. Heater, kind of a heater thing, make sure you got enough propane to get you through a crisis type situation. And can also serve as a backup for a cooking system. Coleman stoves, those kinds of things, they use propane. So I think propane is a pretty handy commodity inventory-wise to have on hand to make sure that you've got some backups, not only for heat, but for cooking. So take a look at your backup systems. This is our backup generator for the whole house. The thing's a beast, it's a monster. We invested in this about 4 years ago, just before we retired. Great investment. Have had to use it a couple of different times over that period of time when the power around here would go out. This is a 20,000 kilowatt generator. We've got it hooked in directly to the house, and it can power the furnace, keep the freezers going, keep the water heater going, you name it, it can run the whole house. And I am certainly glad that we've got this as part of our backup systems here. We do an awful lot of gardening, and we planted our winter gardens, which consists of lettuce and spinach and radishes. There's cabbage in there, turnips, that kind of stuff. And because we paid attention to the weather forecast, we knew that this cold front was going to come through yesterday and through last night and into this morning. That was going to drop the temperature quite a bit. And we were ready for it. We've got just a piece of, I think it's 4 mil plastic that we've cut into 2 different sections. We placed 1-inch PVC pipe down along the edges of the raised bed and created kind of a hoop frame. Drape the plastic over that hoop frame, and it acts just like a greenhouse. Keeps it a few degrees warmer inside there, protects the plants from any kind of freezing and frostbite. Thankfully, it did not get that cold last night to have to worry about a real actual frost, but in our first frost date around here can happen right around the 1st to the 10th of November, give or take, and so we're as pretty close to that as we can get. We did cover last night, and we're glad we did. The other thing that's pretty important to deal with, and here's the second bed that we've got, and that's got the salad makings in there, the lettuce and the spinach and all that. But the other thing that I learned a lesson on a long time ago was to make sure that if you've got garden hoses hooked up to an external spigot at your house, like we do here, and it's probably pretty dark in there, but if you can see right back up in there, I've taken the hose down, disconnected it, drained the hose, just to make sure that if it gets super cold, that hose doesn't freeze and break the pipe that comes out of the basement into the exterior of the house. I can't emphasize enough how much of a mess that can make in your basement when you forget to do that. I did that in New Hampshire, and let me tell you, it gets cold up there. It really gets cold up there, and that pipe just absolutely burst wide open about 5 feet inside the house. The water was spraying all over the place. It was a true nightmare mess. So that's a brief overview of our getting ready for winter checklist, the seasonal change checklist. Hope you found some of the information helpful, give you some ideas, give you some thoughts about being prepared for the change of the seasons that's upon us right now. Being prepared is really a state of mind. It's something that you gotta be practiced at. It's something that you gotta think about logically and strategically to make sure that you're gonna be ahead of yourself on this kind of stuff. I guess I've been defined as radically self-sufficient. And I just want to make sure that I have what I think I need to make sure that me and my family are going to be safe and secure should anything nasty happen. Whether it's a natural disaster, big old snowstorms, ice storms, power outages, and then some of the lesser potentials of things like EMPs and nuclear weapon launches from North Korea and things like that. Yeah, it's good to be prepared for that kind of stuff too. But my primary focus is to make sure that if whatever's gonna happen happens, whether it's an economic meltdown, whether it's a huge snowstorm, the perfect storm kind of a thing, that I'm ready, that I've got enough stuff, inventory, food supplies, water, backup systems, vehicle maintenance is taken care of, all that kind of stuff. Got to make sure that you're ahead of it. And as a good prepper, and as one that's disciplined, and that's one that's thinking about prepping as a strategic element in your survival plan, this is it. Hopefully this is helpful. This is the Prepared Suburbanite signing out for now. And remember, be prepared always, and I'll see you on the next video.